Hello everyone, this is Music by Philip and welcome to part number 3. Like I said in the previous video, in this part you will learn how I mixed and mastered this beautiful future bass track. Hold up guys, I just lied. I'm not talking about mastering in this video because in this project I have a lot to cover in terms of mixing, so the video is way too long. I left the mastering part for another video. This is a very detailed video. I explain a lot of things in terms of mixing, so I encourage you to take your notebook and take some notes. Enjoy. Without any further ado, let's start with the mixing. So how I mixed this song. And by the way, I will give you some sound design tips on certain sounds. Alright, so let's start with the piano. It's a Labs piano. First thing that I have here on the chain is Valhalla Vintage Verb. This reverb plugin is really good and gives this piano like a dreamy vibe. You know, if I take off all the effects, including the reverb, if I put all the effects, see the difference? I will do a lot of A/B testing so you guys can really understand how I process my sounds and how certain techniques really make the difference. So the second plugin is OTT. It's at 43%, so that's why the piano, that's why you hear this huge difference on the piano. It's compressing a lot the piano, it's giving more high end to the piano. OTT just make things sound good. And of course the OTT, it's gluing the piano with the reverb and it's making the reverb more intense, more noticeable. So it's always good to put OTT after your reverb plugin. And just a normal low cut at 81 Hertz. Okay, we have this vocal ambience. Just added a Valhalla Vintage Verb. You guys will see I use a lot Valhalla Vintage Verb because it's amazing. I really love it. Next sound, we have some sort of pad. The name is Reese Bass. It was meant to be a Reese Bass, but it turned out as a pad sound. It sounds like this. So let's see how I processed. Once again, Valhalla Vintage Verb. By the way, this is not sponsored. Valhalla Vintage Verb at 70%, and you guys will see the difference right now. So this is without any effect. Okay. Now you guys will understand the reason why I put this reverb at 70%. Makes the sound way more wide and puts the sound more in the background, which is what we want. This is a background pad. This is just a sound that supports the piano and gives some atmosphere at the same time. All right, next sound we have the guitar. It's from Contact, sounds like this. So inside Contact, you already have some processing, old flanger, reverb, an EQ, some sort of amp effect, a cabinet effect, delay, and more reverb. So, and the way I processed here on the FL Studio mixer, I used Camel Crusher, Valhalla Vintage Verb again, and one thing that is important, try to use the same reverb plugin for basically all of the sounds that you have on your track, because it will help to put all your instruments in the same place. And sometimes that's good. That's good because you don't want to have instruments with different room vibe, let's say. Sometimes that's not good. So it's always good to feel like everything is playing in the same room. So for the guitar, Camel Crusher, Valhalla Vintage Verb, and this EQ, a high cut and a low cut. So let's do an A/B with the processing. So the EQ makes the sound more in the background. The reverb puts the sound more on the background as well, and the camel crusher helps to compress the guitar and make it more distorted. Next sound is the flute. Once again, Valhalla vintage verb, then OTT, and an EQ that it's not doing anything. So let me just delete it. So let's do an A/B test with the flute. So the OTT makes the sound more louder, more compressed, gives more high end. Valhalla vintage verb, just to add more reverb and to put the flute in the same room as the other instruments. Then we have the strings. They sound like this. And for the strings, I only have Valhalla vintage verb at 45% mix. Let's do an A/B test. Valhalla vintage verb makes those strings sound more wide and it pushed them a little bit more into the background. So let's actually go to the drop. All right, so for the chords layer, I added Valhalla vintage verb, but now the color is different. It was always on the 70s, now it's on more modern days. OTT, only 4%, just a tiny bit. Some EQing, lowering here the lower mids. Lowering here some mids and some high frequencies. Because here I needed space for the white noise and for the other instruments as well. And if I take off these two EQs, I mean, let me leave this one. And so you can feel the difference of this one, right? This is without. Way more clean. It does a lot of difference. In the end, those little details, those little tweaks on the EQ makes a ton of difference. So it's really good to do these kind of A/B tests. On this EQ, let's actually turn it off and you will feel the difference on the low-mid region. And of course you will feel the low cut, so it will make a huge difference actually. But let's do an A/B test. It makes the sound more thin, which is good because you need space for your bass sounds. Let's do a complete A/B test with the reverb, OTT and EQs turned off. With all the effects. So for the strings chords, it's actually on the same mixer track. So let's just do an A/B test. They sound cleaner as well. So let's go to the bass. On the bass part, we have 3 layers. They sound like this together. This is how they sound individually. All right. So in this case, all of those 3 sounds are assigned to the same mixer track, but I don't recommend to do it. Don't do it because you need to process them individually so you can use like the bass area of certain basses and the sub area for certain basses, like separate them. In this case, they work really well together. I don't know why, don't ask me, but they did really work together because I mixed them with these knobs. By the way, pay attention to these knobs because you will understand better how I mix and the volume that I give to certain sounds. because I don't mix too much here. You know, I use this as well. So pay attention to those volume knobs. So for the bass, I only have an EQ, like lowering the higher frequencies. Okay, let's do an A/B test, and I put the basses more mono-ish. Let's do an A/B test. They had a really crispy high hand, and I took it off because I didn't need that. So next sound is the white noise, okay? And it's assigned on the same track as the chords. So the chords and bass, they both go to a bus channel, okay? On this bus channel, we have this EQ, boosting a little bit the higher frequencies. We have sound goodizer and shaper box, okay? This EQ, I just felt I needed a little bit more higher frequencies. The sound goodizer just to glue all of those sounds together and to give them more, to give them a different tone. And let's hear the difference, especially on the chords, all right? Let me mute the bass sounds. Let's mute the sound goodizer. So the sound goodizer, it's giving them a different tone, it's compressing them, giving more harmonics, making them louder. So another good A/B test for you guys to understand how this sound goodizer, it's giving them a different tone. If I switch to the A preset, the A preset gives me a more crispy sound with less mids and lower mids. And the C preset gives me more body, gives me more mids and some lower mids, which is good. I wanted this sound, I want this to sound full. Sound goodizer, it's doing a great job here. Let's hear all the sounds and let's do an A/B test for the bus channel. So that sound goodizer, it's giving those sounds a ton of power. And it's literally just only one knob and choosing one of these presets. And you're good to go. Amazing, pretty amazing. All right, so let's go to the lead. The lead sounds like this. Okay, so for the lead, by the way, the lead is also assigned to this bus channel. So let's go to the individual process of the lead. I added isotope trash, the preset Gnasher. Yeah, it's a weird name, but it gives it just distorts the sound. That's it. Valhalla vintage verb and this EQ. I lowered the high frequencies once again because I already have the white noise and the chords as well. They have high frequencies, so I don't want like a lot of high frequencies fighting with each other. So I lowered a bit the higher frequencies and I made a pretty big low cut at 250 Hertz. Okay, so let's do an A/B test for the lead. Without. So the isotope trash, it's making a huge difference. It's distorting the sound. It's even compressing the sound, giving more harmonics. And the Valhalla vintage verb gives a dreamy vibe, gives more reverb. Because future bass leads, you need to find a mono sound and apply certain effects like delays and reverbs to make the sound more wide and more in the background, but at the same time it needs to be in front because it's a lead sound, but it needs that dreamy vibe, you know, and also makes the sound more full, adding reverb and distortion. So just pick a really simple sound that is mono and adds a lot of distortion and reverb, and there you go, you have a future bass lead. So let's go to the drums. I already explained how I layered the drums on part 2, so go watch it. Let's go to the kick. So only the main kick and the top kick. Both of them are assigned to channel number 12. Okay, so for the kick, I have this crazy plugin. Not everyone knows this plugin. It's called Bark of Dog. It has a really weird name. But essentially this boosts the lower frequencies, but it kind of does his job really well. It's different from picking an EQ and boosting the lower frequencies. This plugin does it differently. I don't know how to explain it. I wish I knew how to explain you guys, but this is really good for kicks. Just add this to your kick and instantly your kick will be more beefy. Will have more lower frequencies. So it's good. Let's do an A/B test without the bark of dog. With the bark of dog. So the bark of dog gives a different tone. It distorts a little bit more, but I believe it's because of the Fruity Blood overdrive and the transpire. So let me switch them off and let's do the A/B test again. So it gives a different tone to the kick, and the sub bass, it's more present. You feel and hear more the sub bass, which is good. So let's go to the SSL channel. Basically, this is an EQ plugin and it's boosting the high frequencies, the 7.5K. Let me just grab an EQ and show you what is that like. 75K. So okay, basically that EQ is doing this. I really like to EQ kicks with this EQ because once again it's really precise and really good. So let's hear the difference. Okay, it gives more high end to the kick. So transpire, I don't know if you will be able to hear the difference with transpire, but it's a transient shaper and it gives more attack. It's giving more attack to the kick. Without it, with. Oh yeah, you can hear a lot of difference. Makes the kick way more attacky and punchy. And Fruity Blood overdrive to distort even more the kick. Yeah, it gives a different tonality, makes the kick more distorted, which is good for future bass. So let me do an A/B test with all of the effects. So without everything, with everything. Way more punchy, way more distorted, and this will make your kick more present in the mix, because if you have a kick sounding like this, you will hear it, but it will not be that present like this version. It's way more noticeable, way more aggressive, and it's good for future bass. And adding those kick enhancers, like this one and this one, just makes a ton of difference. Without the kick enhancers, with the kick enhancers. Makes the kick more wide and a little bit more punchy. Future bass, if you wonder how you make that Illenium kick style, just follow my steps. Yeah, that's how you do it. You need to layer your kicks. You need to compress them, to compress the layers, because this channel is going to a drum bus, and guess what? We have a compressor here. It's FabFilter Pro C2 with the preset drums, bus, big smack. It's a really good preset. Makes your drums way more punchy and glues everything really well. I really like that preset. All right, so let's go to the rest of the elements. We have the snare. Okay, the first snare, the processing, it's a Valhalla vintage verb, and the second snare, the same thing, Valhalla vintage verb. Really simple, and it's going to the drum bus, which has the compressor that I talked about. I had these toms. We have toms here. It's on channel 15. So on channel 15 we have an EQ cutting the lower frequencies, because I didn't want those rumble sub frequencies to mess with the frequencies of the kick. So the only thing that needs to rumble and to be aggressive in the sub area is the kick, not the toms, all right? So cut it, just cut it out. And transpire to add a little bit more attack to the toms. So next thing, let's talk about automations, okay? The first automation that I have here is the sidechain automation. I don't recommend you to do your sidechain this way. This is the lazy version of sidechain. The best version is using a compressor, and I will explain that on future videos, okay? So for this track, I did it the lazy way, and it worked, you know. It's not a big deal, but I think you have a better result if you sidechain using compressors, okay? So basically this is for the kick and this is for the snare. It's not a aggressive sidechain. Just a little dip in the sound just to make a little room for the snare, but the kick is very aggressive and needs a lot of space. All right, so let's hear how the sidechain is affecting our sounds in the drop. It's ducking the sound when the kick and snare plays. Another automation, it's the shaper box automation. So basically this is triggering the shaper box. Whenever we reach this point, the shaper box will be triggered and it will create this bouncy effect. And let's hear it. Let's hear it how it affects. So and on shaper box, that's how the wave looks like. I think I explained everything that I could. I hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget to download this FLP. Link is on the description. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe to this channel for more content like this. And don't forget to comment saying that you want a 50% off discount code so you can use it at your checkout when you buy this FLP. God bless you all and see you guys on the next video. Ciao.